What if we are on the cusp right now of a very, very hugely big move in Bitcoin? Well, today I want to explore some charts that suggest that's exactly what is coming. So we'll be looking at gold, the S&P 500, and Bitcoin in isolation, how these assets are relating to each other right now, and what it all says in terms of some Q4 price targets for Bitcoin. Now is not the time for fear. That comes later. So let's start with gold's price action. It's hard to believe, but gold went over $4,000 an ounce this week. It's absolutely crazy. Now, look at this consolidation channel that gold broke out of in late August. Gold consolidated in this channel for 128 days before making a major move to the upside. Now let's add on the Bitcoin chart, which is the bottom one here. So we can directly compare gold to Bitcoin. So listen, just from a high level, I've looked at the correlations between these two assets before. We've talked about it in a few different videos. The TLDR has been that Bitcoin follows gold by about 100 days approximately. It's not a perfect science, it's an approximate trend, right? Other professional analysts tend to think that Bitcoin's lag is a bit shorter, between 60 to 90 days on average. So let's just go with a broad range here. The Bitcoin tends to follow gold somewhere between 60 to 100 days after it makes a big move. Now here's what's interesting. If we measure from where gold started this last major consolidation, which was near the end of April, to when Bitcoin peaked in July, the gap there is 83 days. So that does fit perfectly within our range. So my point here is that this range for Bitcoin, which started from mid-July to right now, which is between $107,000 to $123,000, this looks like the lagging range to gold's major consolidation period. And if this is right, then the big takeaway is that Bitcoin should at some point in the next, few weeks, follow the gold breakout. Now, maybe that breakout move is going to start happening in the next few days, in which case Bitcoin's breakout will be following gold by about 40 days. Maybe the breakout ends up happening closer to a 100-day lag, which, considering crypto markets wanting to basically screw everybody the maximum amount all the time with expectations, that would mean we actually consolidate from here until almost early December before a late year breakout. Most likely it's somewhere between here and there, late October, mid-November, whatever it might be. Now, precisely when it all happens is not really the main point. Rather, my point is that gold is moving hard to the upside. Bitcoin tends to follow gold's move with a lag. So we need to prepare right now for a hard breakout in Bitcoin to the upside with some major price targets. Now, if you want to trade Bitcoin or other top coins, Solana, Ethereum, dog coins, whatever, you need a great exchange to do that on. That place is BitUnix. So you have to ask yourself the question, will you start taking your trading seriously and move over to an exchange that not only respects your privacy, but also gives you insane sign-up bonuses? Check it out. Link right down below. Long the rips, short the dips, no KYC, no VPN, available to anyone, anywhere. That's you. And here's the deal. Deposit $2,000, get $400 back. $5,000, $500 back. $10,000, $700 back. Crazy deals, insane trading bonuses, and we're giving away $1,000 in every live stream for the month of October. You can be in to win. Link down below. Now let's turn over to the price action of the S&P 500, basically the gold standard of all assets. I've got it zoomed out here since the beginning of 2024, and notwithstanding the tariff buy the dip opportunity, this thing has just been on one long, unrelenting grind upwards. Right now, the S&P 500 is closing in on 6,800, which is crazy, man. Especially considering what your altcoins look like. I know, right? We've got Bitcoin's price action at the bottom here. So what we're trying to do is find some kind of rhyme or reason between these two assets. Now, before I tell you what I'm seeing, here's what the professionals are saying. Basically, Bitcoin over the last few years has been behaving like a leveraged tech stock to the S&P 500. Therefore, the two assets are positively correlated, obviously, because of liquidity flows, but there's really no easy answer as to which one tends to lead and which one tends to lag. It's mixed, and it can vary by time frame. So with that out of the way, here's what I'm seeing right now. First, whenever the S&P 500 goes risk off, like it did in the tariff scare, well, what did we see? Well, unsurprisingly, Bitcoin does the same. It goes risk off too. However, what's most interesting, at least from my bird's eye perspective, is that the S&P just tends to continually grind upwards, while Bitcoin will have these long stretches of sideways to downwards consolidating price action that ends with a very quick and violent move to the upside. Now, if you agree with that, then here's how I think we can get some signal from the S&P 500. If the S&P is grinding up, and if Bitcoin is consolidating or even in a slight pullback, then maybe try to scoop some Bitcoin within the lower price points of Bitcoin's consolidation ranges. Because perhaps we can think of our stock indices more like a traffic light. If the indices are grinding up, then that's a green light for Bitcoin to continue to be in a risk-on environment, and that will likely go higher as well. And if we apply that signal to our current situation, we can see the S&P 500 is indeed grinding up. It is in firm risk-on territory right now. That's the green light for Bitcoin particularly. Your altcoins, Anyway, all this is telling us that Bitcoin will probably break out of its consolidation to the upside as well, especially considering the correlations with gold. So the TLDR on both gold and the S&P 500 charts right now is simply this. Bitcoin should very likely be going higher at some point between now and the end of Q4, essentially, because that makes the most sense given what we're seeing in the chart and the historical relationship between Bitcoin and these two assets. Now, I want to wrap up this video with just a few Bitcoin all-time high price targets by the end of 2025. So if you imagine that Bitcoin is breaking out of this rectangle consolidating pattern between 107 to 123K, then the technical target is about $140,000. A symmetrical triangle price target comes in at 133K. And if Bitcoin can touch this multi-year ascending resistance line again by the end of 2025, we're looking at one Bitcoin price somewhere between $145,000 to $155,000, depending on when the touch happens. And the Fibonacci lines, by the way, are giving us a target of around $150,000 to $160,000. So this 133 to 155, 160K range is basically our price target for Bitcoin by the end of 2025. I think we hit the upper end of that range, somewhere around 150K. And again, as we discussed today, a move like this is supported by both the gold charts and the S&P 500 charts, showing a reflection of risk-on attitudes and inflowing liquidity into the markets. And just two quick notes. First, if you're bummed that Bitcoin might only hit 150K by the end of the year, then watch my 4-year cycle versus extended cycle video I put out the other day. Also, TLDR on that is that I think Bitcoin all-time high train will just keep rolling right through 2026. We have multiple more all-time highs to put in with big long consolidation periods like we've been seeing. Second, if you liked that price target TA that we did at the very end here, then take a look at the premium newsletter and the Discord group. There's links down below for both those. We're sharing lots of TA and all that kind of stuff on basically a daily basis. So go check it out. Link down below. Thanks for watching. I'll see you back in the next video.